Hi, welcome to this video about the Rides in the Storm DMO. This is going to be a short video and I mainly want to focus on DMO, or using it as a kind of very slimmed down complex oscillator. So I mean at audio rates. And to demonstrate its capabilities as a VCO, and mainly its tracking, because I think it's really marketed as an LFO really, I have set up this test, and right now we are actually hearing DMO in the left speaker, or if you're wearing headphones, in your left ear. If you're hearing this from your right ear, you are wearing your headphones the wrong way around. So this is DMO, and to the right we are hearing Generate 3 by Analog Audio Design, and I consider the tracking of this VCO to be pretty much perfect across a very large range of octaves. So I tuned them by ear. To do this, I've just set DMO to a certain pitch that I liked, because there's really no fine-tune control here. And then I tuned Generate 3 to that frequency. It would be very hard to do it the other way around because there's no fine-tune control. So now I'm going to play a sequence with both VCOs, and if they go out of tune, if the tracking is off, we should be able to hear that it sounds wrong. So let's just for a moment listen to Generate 3 by itself. And now DMO by itself. And then both at the same time. And as you can hear, there is no real noticeable difference in the tracking for these octaves. Now let's start transposing this sequence to hear if we can spot any tracking errors. In the meantime, I'm going to set up a patch to do some modulation on DMO. So both of the VCOs are set to ramp waves, by the way. And I think you can hear there's no real noticeable difference between the two. So the tracking on DMO is really rather good. Now let's introduce some modulation to the wave shape. For this I'm using the LFO of the second channel of DMO. I'm routing this through TUL to attenuate it a little bit. But to demonstrate this, let's just listen to DMO by itself, or at least the first channel of DMO. And at least when these buttons are not pressed down, we can continually change the wave from a ramp to a triangle to a saw wave. When we press this white button down, wave shape changes to a pulse wave, and turning this knob here changes the pulse wave. So when we depress this button again, so it's in the up position, and we send modulation into this input, we can control the wave shape with external modulation. And the knob is an offset for this modulation. And when we press down this button, the incoming modulation changes the pulse width. So we have a pulse width modulated wave going on here. And yes, it goes through 0. Now, when we return to listening to both Generate 3 still to the right and now DMO to the left again, but with this PWM wave, you can hear how this really fattens up the sound. And again, the tracking, as you can hear, is really adequate. Now, let's quickly go over the other features of DMO. So it's centered again on the mixer. Let's remove the modulation. So I already told you that when you're listening to the first channel, and this of course also works when you're using this as an LFO, I'm just focusing on the use as an VCO. So when you press this button down, the wave changes from whatever you have set here to a pulse. And pressing this down changes the wave into a sample and hold. And this button overrides whatever you do here. And it doesn't seem that this knob here changes anything when you're in this mode. The speed does, of course. So now let's quickly listen to channel B. Let's turn up the speed so we can actually hear it. For the most part, this is really similar. We can change the shape of the wave using this knob. From inverse saw to triangle to saw wave. When we press this button, the wave changes into a pulse wave. But when we press this one down, the wave changes into a sine wave. So here we have the option to change the wave into a sample and hold, which we can reset using the reset input. At audio rates we can use this as a hard sync. And here, when we press this button down, this becomes a sine wave. And I'm really a fan of sine waves for modulation, much more than triangles or pulse waves. And I never use saw waves or ramp waves for modulation. Sometimes I do, but that's very rare. So let's listen to the first channel again. Let's for a moment remove the sequence. So now we haven't touched upon these lower knobs here. What these do is introduce FM. These are the FM index knobs, and these are normal to the other channels. So if I open this attenuator, the signal from channel B will be used to frequency modulate channel A. And this is really interesting for LFOs, but of course at audio rates, yeah, this is complex oscillator territory. Now I can do the same thing for channel B. I can introduce some FM, which is normal to channel A. So if I open up this attenuator, the signal from channel A, which is already being frequency modulated by channel B, will be used to further frequency modulate channel A. So this is cross modulation. And it's really interesting to have this kind of functionality in this small of a package. And I have some slow modulation here coming from marbles. You can of course still use this to change the wave shape on channel A, which changes the timbre while everything is cross-modulating each other. And there's even separate inputs to modulate the setting of these knobs externally. Let's use a gate signal for this. I mean, I think this is really cool. So I'm just using gates from marbles here. So this might be a little bit too much, but I'm just doing this to demonstrate the complex oscillator behavior of this dual LFO, which is actually kind of awesome. Let's remove this one. So I'm guessing the knobs become attenuators when you send something into the CV inputs. Because when I turn this down and I send something in, nothing really happens. So let's see what happens when I reconnect my sequence. Maybe I need to synchronize my clocks. Let's see if I have a cable that's long enough. So if I remove the cross modulation, this is what's happening. And if I now introduce some of that cross modulation, let's remove this gate here. I need to turn this one up because this was at LFO rates. Of course, this will throw off your tuning. I don't mean your tracking, but generally frequency modulation, especially exponential, has a tendency to throw off your tuning. But let's see if I can sequence them both. Now let's speed up the divider on my sequencer to see if I can make this a little more interesting. Let's play with the relative tunings. Let's reintroduce the gate. And one more thing I wanted to try, which I haven't tried actually at any moment, is use the output of channel B to sync or reset channel A. This is something that's always interesting if you're using oscillators to frequency modulate each other. It's always interesting to at least try to sync them to each other as well. Sometimes it sounds really interesting. But for the thing I have going on now, it doesn't seem to do much. Let's remove the modulation to the wave shape. And let's use this one as a sine, and let's just use the output of channel B to sync channel A now. And as you can hear, we're getting closer to those classic sync tones. But let's remove the sequence because it's really starting to bore me, and I can assume that it's starting to bore you as well. So if you go too high with your master oscillator, you won't hear anything if you're using sync, so that's normal. And if you go too low, you won't actually really sync them together, at least not in a way that makes sense when it comes to pitch. There's a narrow range where they actually lock into each other. And then of course, if you send in some slight modulation to your slave oscillator, then you should be able to get some of those interesting moving sync timbres like this. So if you now connect the sequence to the master, which is now channel B, and we're still listening to channel A, by the way, we're listening to the signal coming from this blue cable, which is coming out of the output of channel A. And you can have these sync timbres. But then of course you can still go haywire with the cross modulation. And with the modulation of your wave shape. I'm still just using marbles to modulate everything here. So this will be it for this rather short video on the Rides in the Storm DMO. Thanks a lot, by the way, to Uwe George for sending me this unit. I really didn't think it would be this interesting to use as a VCO. I was intrigued to use it as a versatile dual LFO. I mean, having built-in cross-modulation for LFOs is interesting enough as it is, but yeah, I really didn't expect it to track so good. And maybe just because there's no volt per octave label above these inputs, because right now there's just speed. Maybe it would be a better idea. Oh, this is annoying. Maybe it would be a better idea if they changed this to volt per octave. These modules are really sturdy. They're made of aluminium. The jacks feel really sturdy as well. There's a really positive connection when you plug in a cable. The knobs are a little bit wobbly, as you can see. The buttons feel really nice. Overall, I think these modules are really good. The labels are a little bit confusing, but once you get over the initial confusion, yeah, there's really a world of sound inside this. What is it? 8 HP module here. Yeah, it's pretty great. Anyway, I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching. Bye.